Judge Kavanaugh went to Georgetown Prep. Christine Blasey Ford went to Holton Arms. Both are elite Washington, D.C. area prep schools. Tonight, some alumna of Blasey Ford's alma mater are circulating a letter with 1,000 signatures so far. It says what Ford is alleging, quote, is all too consistent with stories we heard and lived while attending Holton. Many of us are survivors ourselves. Some of those classmates appeared with Democrats today.
We believe Dr. Blasey Ford, and we are so grateful to her for coming forward and sharing her story. Sexual assault is a problem across America, and women need to be heard and they need to be believed. And we are so in awe of Dr. Blasey Ford's courageousness. The community stands with her. That is why we put this letter together.
I hope that Dr. Christine Blasey Ford gets the message that we have her back.
So against those optics, what do Republicans do? Stick to Monday or give Blasey Ford more time? Nan Arendt is president for the Alliance for Justice. Guy Benson is the political editor of townhall.com and co-host of Benson and Harf on Fox News Radio. Welcome to you both. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want to read through a little bit of what we've gathered tonight about the conditions that her team is setting. There are others, but these we've confirmed. No lawyers can ask questions. Only questions can come from committee members. Brett Kavanaugh cannot be in the room, and Kavanaugh must go first. Nan, I didn't practice for many years, but for enough that I've never seen the defense go first.
Well, I think it's really too early to say what's going to actually transpire. I will say, as we just saw from that clip, that every woman in America will be looking at how this is handled and how it unfolds. It's clear that she is serious, has a credible allegation. It's important that she talk about it. And after all, Brett Kavanaugh has no right to a seat on the Supreme Court. No one does. It's a privilege, and he will have to show at this hearing that he really is capable and fit to sit on the highest court.
He's eager to do that.
He's got the burden. I mean, not her. He has the burden.
Okay. We can debate that. This is not a trial in the sense of a criminal trial. I mean, this is a Senate hearing. He has said, and he's done his sworn testimony this week, he says he's happy to come back and he's looking forward to it. But I want to read you something that our own Chris Stirewalt put in the halftime report today. He said Republicans have to bend over backwards to accommodate Ford. They mustn't be bullies. If Kavanaugh's innocent, better to allow some Democrats to make themselves ridiculous as Republicans follow the process to the end. What do you say?
Yeah, I think by and large, if the requests are reasonable, they can accommodate many of them. For example, if her lawyers want this to happen on Wednesday instead of Monday, fine. Monday, to me, is not some sacrosanct day. If they have certain questions about who will ask certain questions, I think having Mark Judge potentially brought up and questioned, I think, is a reasonable thing for them to ask. It's not reasonable to try to dictate who is allowed to ask questions. It's not reasonable to say we want to go second and make our allegation after the defense goes first. The FBI investigation thing seems to have been dropped even by them, which I think is positive. But I just want to go back, Nan, I really don't think that it's fair to say that the burden is on Brett Kavanaugh to prove a non-falsifiable claim with no corroborating evidence from the time. Anyone can hurl an allegation. I think it's a serious allegation. I have no idea if she's telling the truth or not, and neither do you. None of us know. I think it's a dangerous standard to say that the accused has the burden of proof to disprove their guilt, because how could he do that to your satisfaction?
Yeah, and let me read something that David French wrote to that point on National Review Online. He says, Ford's team has behaved as if she doesn't have to prove her case and as if the very request that she do so is itself fundamentally oppressive. She submitted her unsworn claim and then immediately gone into a defensive crouch with allies such as New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand even claiming that having her testify at a Senate hearing would somehow silence her. Nan?
Oh, first of all, she does have a very credible claim. And it's clear that she's been living with this, haunted by it, for most of her life. There's evidence to that effect. Her husband's talked about it. She talked about it in therapy. This is very real. She will, if this goes ahead, present her case, and I'm sure she'll present it well. It's Brett Kavanaugh who has to show the American people, and it's the Senate that's going to be put to the test as to whether or not
What does he have, what does he
It
have to
can
show?
fulfill its advice and consent responsibility. You know, it's interesting. This, just from the very beginning of this nomination, Republicans have railroaded Brett Kavanaugh through the Senate, and their mission here, well, it's easy to say.
Well, if you look
they've
at strict
withheld
facts,
documents.
The facts, though, the timeline is very much the same as what we saw for several other recent justices: Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Kagan, excuse me, and Sotomayor.
Much more time at the White House, federal government. And after all, what did this administration do? Withheld 100,000 pages of documents based on executive privilege, just like Donald Trump's taxes. It withheld 93% of Brett Kavanaugh's record.
Well, no,
it hid them from the public.
That includes a lot of documents that he did not write, right? So that's not really his record.
No, these were emails, memos.
But
if
his name was on the email, they wanted to see it. I mean, that was part of it. I want to play something else that Senator Mazie Hirono said today about this.
This is not fair. I'm counting on the members of the press to point out that this is a fast track. They are totally intent on getting Judge Kavanaugh onto the Supreme Court, come hell or high water.
And, Guy, that's to Nan's point.
Well, Hirono also talked about defeating Kavanaugh and holding the seat open for 2 years, which is sort of giving away the game of what some of the intentions seem to be here. This is not an unfair process. The president won the election, nominated this man. It's been, as you said, a similar time horizon to similarly situated nominees in recent history. And you know, I'm sorry, it must be said, Dianne Feinstein, the ranking member of that committee on the Democratic side, had this information for almost 2 months and sat on it, and then it just happens to leak out after the hearings and the week before the vote. I mean,
and as we've said, that tends to do a disservice to the accuser as well, because now people immediately question this when they see it coming out as time.
It's unfair to Dr. Ford.
So we got to leave it there. But I hope you'll both come back, because I have a feeling this is not over in the next 24 to 48 hours. Nan and Guy, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Sure.